You're looking, I mentioned the platforms and the left and right polarization for a reason, because that day, people see you on TV, they know you're successful, all that. But there's a human being in there that literally wakes up that day and says, every platform I go on, I'm looking at thousands of messages. I'm in the line of fire of the President of the United States. A guy who on television said I should run, who's now saying that I'm not smart enough to run. What is that 24 hours like in your world?
Well, that made me laugh. Look, I'm in good company. He's called quite a few people low IQ, and it's been more of a challenge for me to deal with the African American community, my community, than it's been to deal with the likes of him and folks on either side of the aisle. And I'll get into that in a second. What I would say to you is that we live in times of extreme polarization. He has not helped one bit. I've been utterly disgusted with how he behaves, but I emphasize his behavior because I believe the presidency is a statesmanship position, and that you should be about galvanizing, not polarizing. And I don't think he's that way. But even though I disagree with some of his policies, I don't disagree with everything. But more importantly than that, 77 million people voted for him. And I think that one of the things that's incredibly irresponsible is when folks target who supported him, who agrees with his policy, and that's a license to denigrate them the way that you denigrate him. I think that's incredibly unfair. I've gotten into an argument with people that have called into my Sirius XM political show, Straight Shooter with Stephen A. on Polish radio every Wednesday night, 6 to 8 p.m., by the way. And I've said to them, one guy called up, said he's a racist, and anybody who voted for him is a racist. I hung up on him. And the reason I hung up on that person is because, let me get this straight. Somebody's not entitled to look at the economy and say that I want him instead of her. Somebody's not entitled to look at immigration and say, I think we need to control our borders. I like his policies instead of the Democrats. Somebody's not entitled to say, I'm pro-life, not pro-choice. What I was trying to say was, there's a litany of things that somebody chooses to vote for one candidate over the other without supporting the candidate at all. It's just that we live in a binary system and you got to pick one side or the other, and one side you vibe with more than the other side. That is not a crime. And it's irresponsible for people to think like that. But we also have to pay attention to the fact that we live in a society where we have a political arm, if not both political arms, who instigate that kind of thinking for their own selfish motives. Because they want votes and they want to maintain power and prowess. They feed this stuff. They know all about the algorithms that we're talking about here. They know all about branding. They know all about stigmatizing you and fomenting this level of momentum that could ultimately be aimed in your direction just to take you down, to make life incredibly uncomfortable for you because they want you silenced, all the while preaching about the importance of the First Amendment and a democratic society. The hypocrisy is flagrant. And so my point with them was, you came to the wrong place because you're not silencing me. That ain't gonna happen. Not as long as I'm breathing. You ain't gonna do that. Now you can come to me with facts and I'll keep an open mind and listen to what you have to say. And if you have a point, I'll acknowledge it. But you're not gonna silence me just because you're trying to build support for your side of the aisle. It's been at the expense of the American people. I've even heard that the Democrats want me to come up on Capitol Hill and talk with them behind closed doors. And my response
You
was...
set me up, Steve. Come on.
My response to that was, are you sure you want that? Because...
Listen, the debates on television would be gold.
Well, I have no desire to be an elected official. I love what I do. I love being a voice. I think Governor Josh Shapiro of Pennsylvania labeled it best when he said, Stephen's not really interested in being a politician. Stephen just wants to be a major voice in the mix, somebody that you have to contend with and deal with. He's absolutely right about that. The only thing that's different is that I will admit this. I would give anything to be on that debate stage against those other presidential candidates. I would give anything for it. I mean, I sit here telling you I have no desire to be in office, but I don't care what anybody has seen from me on any other airwaves. I promise you, you wouldn't see me for about a month before a presidential debate, because if I knew I was going to be on stage with these people, I would never be more ready for anything in my life. I believe that what these people have done on Capitol Hill have instigated the polarization and the divide that exists within our country. I resent them for it. I don't like them for it. I'm talking about as a body, not specific individuals, but just as a body. They have harmed America. They are the ones who created Trump, because Trump is able to speak to an audience out there that's utterly disgusted with them. You have to understand, they don't want a politician that sits up there and says, well, you know what, we got to do this better. We've got to be right about this. Let's come together. Let's figure out something. Let's do the right thing. No, they want a candidate that says they sucked, it's rigged, they're horrible, they're low IQ, they don't give a damn about you, they despise America, they hate America, screw them. They're like, yeah, that's how they want politicians talked to and talked about. And he does that. But the reason he gets away with doing it is because there's no one else on the opposite side with the right amount of sizzle, cachet, communicative skills, etc. And he would be in for some work against me. I would give anything to debate him. That's why when he said what he said, my response was, don't talk to me about what other people would do. Since you're so big and bad, why don't you debate me? You know what time it is. Remember, I knew this man before he was the president. He's with sports, with his casinos and the events that he held and all this other stuff. Donald Trump knows enough about me. He knows how I would come at him. He can talk that junk all he wants to, but name the time and place and I'll show up.